Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive with Summarize This Book. Today, we're going to be looking at Kishwar Naheed's I Am Not That Woman.
Ooh,
It's a really powerful poem
yes,
that explores a lot about, gender inequality in a really unique way.
definitely. And very specifically through, the cultural lens of South Asia.
Yeah. And I think it'll be really interesting to kind of see how this poem, reflects those bigger issues.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Naheed is such a, strong voice in,
Yeah.
Indo-Pakistani feminist poetry.
Exactly. She doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
And like right away in that first line, like, I am the one you crushed with the weight of custom and tradition.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, talk about a strong opening.
She sets the tone right away, I think, for the whole poem. It's like,
Yeah.
this is a poem of resistance.
Totally. So, like, how would you describe, like, the poem's main narrative? Like, what's the story it's telling us?
I think the main thread is this rejection of the traditional subservient role that's often imposed on women. And she does this through some really powerful imagery. Like being surrounded by stones, for example.
Oh, yeah, that really stood out to me.
Yeah. What do you think that represents?
I feel like it's not just, like literal stones. It's
Mhm.
like the weight of societal expectations,
Mm-hmm.
the lack of support, maybe even from family.
Absolutely. It's that feeling of being trapped and confined by forces outside of your control.
Yeah. And then there's the darkness, too. Like, that felt really heavy.
Yes. The darkness, I think, symbolizes the forces that try to extinguish a woman's inner light,
Oh, wow.
her hopes, her individuality.
Yeah, like society's trying to dim her shine almost.
Exactly. And Naheed doesn't just talk about these forces in general. She points to specific ways that men contribute to this suppression.
Right, like fathers and sons.
Mm-hmm. She argues that fathers often see their daughters as burdens,
Oh, wow.
commodities to be traded through marriage.
So it's like reducing a woman's worth to her marriageability.
Yeah. And their focus is often on a daughter's chastity as a measure of family honor rather than, something she embodies freely.
So it's more about the family's reputation than like the daughter's own agency.
Exactly. And then there are the sons. It's interesting because she shows this irony that sons who were once nurtured by their mothers grow up to be distant, neglectful, almost like they're planting thorns where they once found comfort.
That's such a powerful image.
Yeah, it really highlights how these dynamics play out within families.
Yeah, and it's not just families, right? This connects to like a bigger societal pattern.
Absolutely. It's like qualities like chastity, motherhood, loyalty, all these things get twisted and used to control women
Yeah,
instead of being seen as expressions of their own choices.
right. Like they're only valuable if they maintain the existing power structure.
Exactly. It's all about control.
Yeah.
And to further emphasize this, Naheed brings up how women's bodies are objectified, especially in advertising.
It's true. You see that everywhere.
Yeah, and it reinforces that idea that women are commodities valued more for their appearance than their individuality.
It's pretty heavy stuff when you think about how deep these norms run.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how we challenge them. It is heavy stuff, but what's so powerful about this poem is that it's not just complaining or, wallowing in despair.
Totally.
It's like this declaration of, self-worth and defiance.
Yes, exactly. Like even in the face of all this oppression, the speaker's not giving up.
Yeah, she's pushing back.
Yeah.
She's claiming her own narrative.
And that line about walking on water, like what an amazing image.
That's not literal, of course. It's about, breaking free from limitations, achieving the impossible.
It's like, yeah, she's not just trying to escape those stones. She's trying to transcend them completely.
Right. And it's not even about rejecting those qualities themselves, like chastity, motherhood, loyalty.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's about rejecting how they're twisted and used to control her. She's reclaiming them.
So she's like redefining them on her own terms.
Exactly. It's a really powerful statement about agency.
It makes you think about like the cultural and historical context, you know? Like what were the specific challenges Naheed might have faced as a woman in South Asia?
Yeah, that's so important to consider. The research you shared talks about how South Asia can be particularly challenging for women because of the patriarchal structures that are so deeply embedded in society.
It's like, it's not just individual men or specific laws, it's like woven into the fabric of life there.
Right. Family religions, societal norms, it all plays a role.
And the research also talked about how that limits women's access to things like education, healthcare, even economic opportunities.
Yes, and that's a crucial point because when women are held back, it affects everyone.
Totally. It's not just a women's issue, it's a human issue.
Exactly. So Naheed's poem in this context becomes even more powerful because she's challenging that whole system that perpetuates these inequalities.
It's like she's saying we need to dismantle these structures completely, not just tweak them around the edges.
Yeah, it's a call for radical change. And what's interesting is that her message resonates far beyond South Asia.
Right.
This is a global issue.
Gender inequality is something women face everywhere.
So it's like we're all connected in this struggle.
That's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just talking about a poem. We're engaging with this global conversation about, gender power and what it means to be free.
Exactly. And we're connecting with all the voices that have come before us demanding that change.
That image of walking on water keeps coming back to me. Like, it's such a perfect metaphor for overcoming these obstacles. But it also makes me think about, like, what are the waters women are still trying to walk on today? Even with the progress we've made, there's still so much work to do.
That's a really good question. And I think, even though things have gotten better in some ways, there are still a lot of waters to cross.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the wage gap still. Women are still underrepresented in leadership positions.
Yeah.
And violence against women, that's still a huge problem.
It's like those stones that Naheed talks about. They're really hard to move.
They are. But I think the important thing to remember is that they can be moved. It takes work and it takes everyone working together. But it's possible.
And that's what's so inspiring about this poem, right? It's not just about pointing out the problems. It's about empowering us to make a change.
Exactly. It's a call to action. So what can we do, in our everyday lives to actually contribute to that change?
Yeah, like how do we move those stones?
Well, I think it starts with awareness. We need to be aware of our own biases and the ways that we might be perpetuating those harmful stereotypes, even without realizing it.
So it's about being an ally, not just in words, but in actions.
It's about speaking up when we see injustice. It's about supporting women in their goals. And it's about advocating for policies that promote equality.
And it's not always about those big grand gestures, right? Sometimes it's the little things.
Right. It's about treating each other with respect. It's about celebrating women's achievements, no matter how big or small.
It's about creating a world where everyone feels valued and supported.
Exactly.
Wow, this deep dive has been amazing. Naheed's poem is so powerful. It really makes you think about gender inequality in a whole new way.
It does. And I think the biggest takeaway is that we all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable world.
So to all our listeners out there, if you found this deep dive into I Am Not That Woman as thought-provoking as we did, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more insightful explorations of powerful literature with Summarize This Book.
And don't forget to give this episode a like and share it with someone you think would appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing for a better future.